Welcome to this deep dive, which is a part of the project O Dromos Ekiti to Historia, or in English, The Street Has Its Own Story, by Giannis Stefanidis. So I want you to picture yourself stepping onto the pavement of Kassandrou Street in Thessaloniki right now. Like you are just dodging a delivery scooter, stepping around a cracked paving stone, and rushing past this crowded bakery.
Yeah, just your completely standard Tuesday morning commute.
Exactly. It feels totally normal, slightly chaotic. But what if I told you that you were entirely blind to the centuries of blood, radical innovation, and, fallen empires that are layered directly beneath your sneakers?
I mean, it really is the ultimate urban illusion, isn't it? We are sort of conditioned to view a street simply as a conduit. Like, it's just a piece of engineering designed to get us from point A to point B as quickly as possible.
Right.
But Kassandrou is genuinely an open-air time capsule. It's just hiding in plain sight.
And that is our mission today. We are going to peel back that asphalt. We want to take you on this curated, immersive walking tour of Kassandrou Street.
Which is going to be amazing.
Yeah, and we're pulling from a stack of really brilliant architectural analyses, historical biographies, and the vibrant urban chronicles from Parallaxy magazine. We are going to decode how an ancient king, Ottoman viziers, and modern teenagers filming TikTok dances all came to share the exact same stretch of Earth.
It's wild. But, to truly understand this physical space, we actually have to start before the concrete was even poured.
Oh, definitely.
We basically have to start with the ghost the street is named after.
Cassander.
Yeah.
I mean, just hearing the name brings up this massive historical paradox for me. He lived from 350 to 297 BC. He's the founder of the Antipater dynasty. But I look at his biography, and I have to ask, was he a visionary architect, or was he just a prolific serial killer?
Well, he was a product of his time, the wars of the Diadochi, the successors. When Alexander the Great died suddenly, he left behind a massive empire and a profoundly dangerous power vacuum. And Cassander, he had stayed behind in Macedonia while Alexander basically conquered the known world. So you have to imagine the intense paranoia and ambition brewing in a man who's just left in the shadows.
So when that power vacuum opens up, Cassander doesn't just, step into it politely. He violently hacks his way to the throne.
Precisely. To secure his grip on power, Cassander orchestrated a systematic eradication of Alexander's bloodline.
Which is just brutal.
Look, absolutely. He ordered the murder of Alexander's mother, Olympias.
Wow.
Yeah. And then he had Alexander's wife, Roxana, and their young son, Alexander IV, assassinated. He even poisoned Heracles, who was Alexander's illegitimate son.
Jeez.
By the time he was done, the most legendary royal family in the ancient world was simply gone, erased.
Yeah, he wiped them out completely. But see, this is where I really struggle to reconcile the history. Because this exact same ruthless usurper also studied under Aristotle. He loved Homer. And most importantly for our deep dive today, he was an incredibly prolific builder.
He was, because he understood a fundamental mechanism of statecraft, which is that a ruler cannot survive on fear alone. You have to consolidate power through infrastructure.
Right, you have to actually build things.
Exactly. So Cassander founded the city of Thessaloniki, naming it after his wife, who, in a twist of twisted irony, was actually Alexander the Great's half-sister.
That's just wild.
And he didn't just, build a little town. He forcibly united 26 smaller settlements from around the Thermaic Gulf to create a massive, centralized economic and maritime stronghold.
Okay, so if I'm trying to wrap my head around this, was Cassander essentially the ancient Macedonian equivalent of a ruthless mafia boss?
Huh, how do you mean?
Like the kind of mobster who violently eliminates every single rival family, but then turns around and builds the neighborhood hospital and funds the local schools just to buy public loyalty?
That is actually a highly effective analogy. Cassander recognized that cities outlast empires. I mean, the blood he spilled secured his crown for a few decades, sure, but the bricks he laid founding Thessaloniki, that shifted the geopolitical center of gravity in the region for millennia.
Wow.
So he was a tyrant, yes, but a tyrant who understood that the ultimate legacy is urban planning.
Which brings us from the ancient founder directly onto the physical street that bears his name. So let's officially start our walking tour. I want you to picture yourself walking down Kassandrou Street, but we are stepping chronologically into the late 15th century.
Right, leaving the ancient world behind.
Exactly. We are moving from a tyrant who built a city for power to men who build complexes for their souls.
Yes, so the first stop on our walk is the Alaca Imaret. Founded in February 1484 by Ishak Pasha, who was a grand vizier and the local governor at the time.
Now, calling it a mosque feels like it misses the mark entirely, because the sources describe it as an entire ecosystem.
It was. It was a coulee. The Ottomans didn't just build, like, isolated places of worship. They built comprehensive community centers.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, the Alaca Imaret functioned as a poorhouse, which is what an Imaret is, a seminary for students, and a prayer hall. And what's fascinating is the financial mechanism behind it all.
Right, the funding.
Exactly. This massive charitable complex right in the heart of Thessaloniki was entirely funded by taxes collected from a small town called Galatista, all the way over in Halkidiki.
That's a serious commute for tax money back then. And the architecture itself is so deliberate, it has this inverted T shape.
Yeah, and the T shape was highly functional. The central vertical axis of the T served as the main prayer hall, while the horizontal crossbars, the side wings, contained the hospices and rooms for weary travelers and students.
And it's built with this really meticulous masonry, right?
Absolutely. Rectangular porous stones that are framed beautifully by red bricks.
It's known as the Alaca Imaret, which translates to colorful. But when you look at it today, it's mostly just stone and brick. I don't see much color.
Well, the name actually comes from its original minaret. It used to be covered in these incredibly vibrant, diamond-shaped, multicolored stones.
Oh, wow.
Sadly, only the base of that minaret survives today. But the building itself has this remarkable story of survival. Back in 1969, a section of its portico collapsed.
Oh, no.
But instead of bulldozing it, the municipality stepped in, they restored it, and today it operates as a really vibrant cultural exhibition space.
Which is a perfect segue to our next stop, literally just down the street, the Yeni Hamam, or the Egli. So this was built in the late 16th century by Huzrev Katuda.
Yes, beautiful structure.
And for over 300 years, right up until 1912, this was a functioning double bathhouse with separate sections for men and women. But its modern evolution is just wild.
It really is a masterclass in urban adaptation. After 1912, it stopped functioning as a bathhouse. But rather than just sitting empty and decaying, the city absorbed it. The interior domes became the ceiling for a winter cinema.
Which sounds so atmospheric.
It was. And its lush outer courtyard was transformed into a summer cinema. In fact, Parallaxy magazine hosted famous movie marathons there all throughout the 1990s.
I love that.
Later on, the acoustics of those old stone walls housed a live music venue.
And today, it's this hidden garden bar. You can literally sit there, sipping a cocktail under the shadow of a 400-year-old Ottoman dome. But let me challenge that for a second.
Okay, go for it.
Isn't that, I don't know, kind of disrespectful, taking a historic architectural monument and blasting modern music in it while people drink beers? Shouldn't a space like that be preserved as a quiet museum?
It's a very valid question, but consider the alternative. When you lock a building behind a velvet rope, you effectively kill its relationship with the neighborhood.
Right.
It becomes a sterile artifact. You have to remember the original purpose of a hammam was communal gathering. People went there to socialize, to cleanse, to share news.
Oh, that makes total sense.
Right. So by converting it into a cinema or a garden bar, the city actually preserved its core function community gathering. It remains woven directly into the daily social fabric of Kassandrou Street.
The function evolves, but the communal soul stays intact. I really like that perspective. Okay, let's keep walking. We're moving from spaces of physical cleansing to spaces of intellectual awakening. We're stepping into the late 19th century now, arriving at 54 Kassandrou Street.
Which is the current site of the 51st Elementary School. But its origins are what make it truly extraordinary. It was built in 1879 by wealthy Dunma citizens, and they named it the Turkish School of Progress.
Now, the Dunma were Jewish citizens who had converted to Islam, correct?
Yes. And because of their unique cultural position, they were often highly cosmopolitan. They had strong trade and intellectual connections with Europe. So when they built this school in the heart of the Ottoman Empire, it was a radical injection of Western Enlightenment.
I was reading about the curriculum, and it was completely ahead of its time. I mean, they were teaching foreign languages. They were running parent education seminars in 1879.
Which is unheard of for the era.
Totally. And they placed a massive, unprecedented emphasis on women's education, with dedicated departments just for girls.
It was revolutionary. But what makes the building itself so remarkable is how it acts as a sponge for the geopolitical chaos of the 20th century.
Oh, the timeline is insane.
Just look at it. It starts as a progressive beacon. Then it transitions into a commercial school. During the Balkan Wars in 1912, it is forced to close its doors entirely. By 1916, those exact same classrooms are housing the gendarmerie.
And there's this wild anecdote from the sources about 1913. A Bulgarian army unit had actually taken up residence inside the school.
Yes.
And a Greek officer, Manolis Tikonas, just marched in and expelled them from the building.
It's like something out of a movie. And the tectonic plates shifted yet again following the 1923 population exchange between Greece and Turkey. The Dunma population was forced to leave, and the building passed to the Greek state. It became the Greek Feth Elementary, ironically led by a principal who himself was a refugee from Smyrna, Pavlos Vatsis.
And the building itself, which, by the way, was declared preserved in 1983, it's visually striking. It's a two-story eclectic structure with a semi-basement and a tiled roof.
Very grand.
Yeah, it has these grand neoclassical and neo-Baroque elements. Beautiful decorative keystones over the windows, a central balcony, and this massive door with a semicircular transom above it.
It was meticulously designed to project stability, reason, and progress.
But here's my question about that. Today, that ornate 19th century facade is totally surrounded by very gray, brutalist, utilitarian apartment blocks.
It is.
Why does it matter that a 9-year-old student today learns math inside that specific historical building rather than just a modern concrete box?
Because it acts as an anchor against architectural amnesia.
Architectural amnesia.
Yeah. Modern utilitarian concrete blocks are built entirely for the present moment. They offer a child absolutely no psychological roots. But when a 9-year-old walks under decorative keystones that survived empires, wars, and massive population exchanges, it provides a subconscious sense of scale.
Wow, yeah.
It tells that student, this city has endured immense upheaval, and you are simply the newest chapter in a very resilient story.
If we lose the buildings, we lose our sense of proportion. That's powerful. Well, the architecture sets the stage, but it really is the people who pump blood into the street's veins. Let's fast forward into the modern era and look at the chaotic, beautiful daily life of Kassandrou.
Right. To set the spatial context here, the modern layout of Kassandrou was heavily formalized by the French architect Ernest Hébrard after the Great Fire of 1917 devastated Thessaloniki.
He had a huge impact on the city.
Massive. Hébrard designed Kassandrou as a long horizontal artery that intersects 11 major roads, like Olympiados and Agios Sophias.
But the vibe of that artery completely changed over time. If you walk this street in the 1980s, before the city built its ring road, Kassandrou was the only way for heavy transit to move west.
Oh, it was an absolute industrial chokehold. The air was just thick with exhaust from trucks, the sidewalks were dominated by textile shops, and residents suffered through deafening hour-and-a-half-long traffic jams every single day.
But then the ring road opens, the heavy trucks leave, the heavy industry moves out, and suddenly Kassandrou is left with this massive urban vacuum. And what fills an urban vacuum?
Very, very cheap rent.
Yep.
And cheap rent is the ultimate magnet for students, immigrants, and really eccentric entrepreneurs.
Today, the street is this incredible, contrasting canvas. The sources describe it as a modern cabinet of curiosities. You walk past the ghosts of the past abandoned shops with unkept vitrines, locked up old hair salons holding decades of neighborhood gossip, faded vintage signs that just say one name, like Gianula.
And yet, right next to all that abandonment is this hyper-local, vibrant life. If you peek into the perpendicular alleys, you'll literally see wild grapevines growing in the absolute center of the city.
It is entirely bizarre in the best way possible. You have a traditional dairy shop operating right next door to a sex shop.
Right.
There is a souvlaki joint that is so legendary, it literally has a line out the door even when the gates are closed. You walk past a Cafaneo broadcasting Albanian television, a locksmith who somehow speaks the language of every single immigrant group in the neighborhood, and this is my favorite, a diner serving crocodile meat. Let me repeat that. Crocodile meat in downtown Thessaloniki.
It perfectly illustrates how a street absorbs the overflow of a city's personality. If you sit at the square in front of the Alaca Imaret we discussed earlier, you'll see this contrast in real time.
Oh, for sure.
You have local teenagers completely oblivious to the 15th century monument behind them, filming TikTok dances, and they're sharing the pavement with grandmas hauling heavy bags of vegetables and young parents pushing strollers.
It's the ultimate urban junk drawer. You know that one drawer in your kitchen where you keep a completely irreplaceable, highly valuable heirloom right next to spare keys, rubber bands, and literal trash.
Yes, everyone has that drawer.
That is Kassandrou. But how does it sustain that? When you have cheap rent and a vibrant youth culture, doesn't that usually just lead to sterile gentrification? How does Kassandrou keep its soul?
It avoids gentrification precisely because it is so unfiltered and raw. Highly curated, polished tourist streets demand conformity. They try to present one unified, sanitized identity.
Yeah, like a postcard.
Exactly. Kassandrou is authentic because it doesn't try to be anything. It allows marginalized communities, eccentric businesses, and students to exist side by side without the crushing pressure of high commercial expectations.
And because it is so raw and mundane, Kassandrou also serves as this perfect, gritty canvas for jarring social commentary. Which brings us to an event in May of 2021 that literally stopped traffic.
Yes. There was an incident that caused widespread shock among drivers and local residents. A woman was seen walking completely naked down the middle of Kassandrou Street in broad daylight.
Now, relying strictly on our sources, we have to report the facts of this impartially. This was not a random or chaotic act.
No, it wasn't.
It was a meticulously organized photo shoot directed by a photographer named Giorgos Trantafiliou. The woman involved was a willing participant who gave her full consent. The entire event was designed as a deliberate, provocative statement against rape culture and victim blaming.
Right, and the underlying logic of the photographer's intent was to visually demonstrate an absolute boundary regarding consent. His explicit message was that no matter how a woman is dressed, even if she is walking completely unclothed down a busy public street, absolutely no one has the right to touch her against her will.
Right.
He used the stark visual to force bystanders to confront their own internal biases about clothing and assault.
It definitely forced a confrontation. But I have to ask about the location. If you want to make a profound statement about society, why do it on a gritty, everyday street like Kassandrou? Why not stage this at a modern art museum or in front of a politically official town square?
Because of the disruption of the mundane, when a person walks into a museum or an official public square, their brain is already prepared to encounter art or protests or political statements.
You expect to be challenged.
Exactly. There is an academic distance. But Kassandrou is the epitome of the Tuesday afternoon commute. It is exhaust pipes, bakeries, and traffic. By placing something so profoundly vulnerable into that gritty, everyday reality, the photographer strips away that academic distance.
You can't just nod at it like a painting.
No, you are forced to react to it as a raw human reality intruding on your daily routine.
The disruption of the mundane. That perfectly captures the soul of this entire street.
So, what does this all mean? Let's wrap up our walking tour. Today, we have walked from the ruthless, city-building ambition of an ancient king to the charitable complexes of Ottoman viziers. We've really covered some ground.
We did. We've traced the path from a 19th century progressive school through the chokehold of 1980s traffic jams and finally arrived in a modern, chaotic haven of students, hidden grapevines, and startling social protests.
It is a profound reminder that cities are not static. They are living, breathing organisms built on countless layers of human triumph and human tragedy. Every single time you walk down a seemingly ordinary street, you are quite literally walking over millennia of history. The asphalt is just a very thin veneer over centuries of stories.
So we want to leave you with a new question to ponder long after this deep dive ends. Think about the buildings on your own street in your own neighborhood that have been demolished over the years. What stories, what progressive schools, what ancient bathhouses, what neighborhood gossip hubs were bulldozed and lost forever just to save a few minutes of traffic or to build a new parking lot? And how has that architectural amnesia shaped the person you are today?
It ultimately comes down to what we choose to remember and what we carelessly allow to be paved over.
Thank you for joining us on this deep dive, which is a part of the project Odromoseki Tidikito Historia, or in English, The Street Has Its Own Story, by Giannis Stefanidis.